Global Frackdown Day is on. Saturday marks a worldwide protest uniting all activists who want to put an end to shale gas extraction. Fracktivists, as they are called, are urging their governments to stand up to the oil and gas lobby. However, in Britain, the authorities see things very differently. Prime Minister has become a vigorous advocate of the risky technique, as Laura Smith now reports.
It's going to make household energy bills so cheap, he says. It'll create loads of jobs, he enthuses. We'll pay you if you let us do it in your area. UK Prime Minister David Cameron has got behind fracking in a big way, almost evangelical in his drive to sell it to the British people, north and south. It's a tough sell, though, as he's found out from environmental groups and local people worried about countryside being scarred up and down the UK. In Balcombe, Sussex, locals and campaigners barricaded a proposed drilling site for 2 months, and they've now vowed to move their camp to wherever Quadrilla, the fracking energy firm, goes next. And they've got the experience of Americans to back them up. 100 times more fracking wells a year are dug in the US than in the whole of Europe, and environmental impacts are showing. Campaigners talk of gas and dangerous chemicals leaking out from underground, contaminated water supplies, risks to air quality, and even earthquakes linked to fracking. And they've been seen here in the UK. Tremors were caused by drilling near Blackpool last year, but the government decided that didn't justify a ban on the technique. According to Cameron, it'd be a big mistake to rule fracking out on environmental grounds. In the choice between boosting the economy and saving the environment, the British Prime Minister has come down firmly on the side of the economy.
Meanwhile, over in Canada, rallies over the past week have resulted in clashes with police and several arrests. In the New Brunswick province, riot squads used pepper spray and batons to force back a crowd of hundreds of protesters who retaliated with petrol bombs. Demonstrators blocked roads and set cars on fire. At least 40 people were arrested. So why exactly are environmentalists so concerned about this particular form of oil and gas extraction? Well, here's how it works. The engineers need to drill deep down about 1 kilometer into shale rock formations and inject water to crack them open and extract oil and gas. To run a well, you need millions of gallons of water combined with sand and chemicals, and much of this water loaded with radioactive substances returns to the surface with the potential to get into lakes and rivers, not to mention that the poisonous fluid can contaminate the soil. And then comes air pollution, as highly potent greenhouse gases are released in the atmosphere. All right, we can now talk to Vanessa Vine. She's an anti-fracking campaigner from Britain Island Frack Free Group. Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us here on RT. Well, let's take a look at the situation from different angles here. I mean, technically speaking, there are, few problems reported with the leakage, for example, in the U.S., as research shows. So my question here is, I mean, aren't activists blowing the dangers out of proportion here?
Not at all. These are not blown out of proportion. If you look at the list of the harmed from Pennsylvania, there are more than 1,600 families, and these are just the ones who've dared to speak out about the neurological problems, the cancers, the asthma, the livestock deaths, spontaneous abortions in cattle, etc. This is not overblown. This could become one of the biggest environmental movements, if not the biggest environmental movement on the planet. It's not just environmentalists, it's ordinary people all over the planet who can see that this industry is ecocidal and must be stopped. Our politicians, you mentioned David Cameron being evangelical, it's a political mania. Many of our British ministers are personally deeply invested in this industry, and they are lying. They are saying that there's no evidence of contamination and no evidence of harm. There's ample evidence. They're saying it'll bring down energy bills. It will not. Even Bloomberg have said that. They're saying it will be an employment panacea. The employment is short-term, small numbers, moves on, and is very dangerous.
Well, as you said, politicians are interested in this and are pushing, for the deals there. But technically speaking, I mean, does Britain have what it takes to actually pursue fracking? I mean, technology and rigs, etc. I mean, is the country equipped enough?
No, absolutely not. And Jessica Ernst, who's an oil and gas industry consultant of 30 years standing in Canada, she says, we have the best regulations in the world. They do not work. The company she worked for fracked her land, contaminated her water so badly she can't even flush her toilet. She's now suing the Canadian government. I'm here in solidarity with the people in so-called New Brunswick, the Mi'kmaq people who are being accused of being violent. Throwing Molotov cocktails is possible. There's agent provocateur element there. We don't know. With the people in Romania, yesterday, who are being cleared from the roads, the farmers by the police, with the people in my community. I live 4 miles from Balcombe. I've had to jump over a fence to get out of the way of the police. It has been absolutely appalling the way our police force, who are supposed to protect life and property, are being made by our government to force through corporate ecocide. We're not fringe environmental nutters, eco-freaks. I'm a regular person who lives nearby, who's looked at the uninvested research, and I do not trust this. It is not a bridging fuel. We should have kicked our addiction to fossil fuels decades ago. No, a few solar panels and a few wind turbines won't sort it, because we've continued to get fossil fuels out of the ground with increasingly dangerous techniques. This industry, fracking, is unregulatable. You cannot legislate for what goes on underground.
Vanessa,
it causes earthquakes.
At
it pollutes
this point, we have two groups here, environmentalists on the one side and politicians on the other. But how can you reconcile these two groups? I mean, can they meet each other halfway somehow?
No, not if they want to go ahead with the extreme fossil fuel industry. It is unregulatable. The uninvested experts and those who used to be in the industry who have turned and are now whistleblowing are saying this cannot be regulated. It's not environmentalists, it's regular people. It's native people on the ground. It's people in rural Pennsylvania, rural Australia, upper middle class, middle England. It's people across the world, Romania, France, Germany, are saying no, because they're looking at the truth, not at what this short-term political ambition and industry,
if there are so many
interest is
people protesting the world over, why is it that politicians are not listening?
For just the reasons I just said: short-term political ambition and corporate gain.
All right, that was Vanessa Vine, activist from Frack, Britain and Ireland Frack Free Group. Thank you so much for sharing your views with us here on RT.